Hi everybody, this is Cristina García-Ruiz from the University of Málaga, and today, together with my colleagues from the ENCIC research group, Teresa Lupion Cobos and Ángel Blanco López, I'm going to show you the result of this communication entitled The Landscape of Becoming a Science Teacher, a case study on professional identity, inquiry, and emotions in Preservice teachers' education. So let's start with the introduction section. Research on the construction and development of teaching identity has recently sparked a growing interest in science education due to its influence on the development of teaching strategies and its direct impact on students' learning. Determined by contextual and personal factors and with a dynamic and multidimensional nature which evolves hand in hand with professional development, it refers to the self-concept or central image constructed from experience, beliefs, and values, personal and practical practices that shape teaching actions. TPI requires a greater focus on competencies and professional development, contributing from initial teaching programs to the creation of TPI and installing the habit of deliberate reflection and inquiry, learning and relearning. In the context of secondary education, Preservice teachers face a duality between their identity developed during their STEM studies and their identity as science teachers, both being linked and shaping the type of teacher they will become. While this scientific identity does not conflict with professional development, it can generate tension when there is no structured space for its negotiation. These tensions arise from unmet expectations regarding the school system, the growing demands for equity and inclusion, and educational shifts towards personalized, student-centered pedagogies, culminating in high levels of stress during the first years as novice teachers. Professional development is therefore fundamental for deconstructing more traditional teaching approaches and adapting them to constructivist approaches based on science and technology education. However, teacher training programs often overlook reflection on TPI, a crucial action that facilitates access to the profession and improves quality, relevance, and adaptability to social and educational changes, fundamental aspects to ensure effective and equitable teaching and learning processes. This duality may be more significant in the case of the Spanish teacher training system, which follows a sequential structural model in which future teachers first complete a 4-year STEM degree focused exclusively on scientific and technological content, and then complete a 1-year master's degree in secondary education teacher training, after which they can enter the teaching profession. Thus, by the time they began their teaching training, prospective teachers have developed their scientific or technological identity rooted in a deep understanding of scientific and engineering processes, encompassing aspects related to interest, competence, performance, and recognition. The construction of the teaching identity closely relates to Preservice teachers' research capacity, not only to the skills to teach students through a research approach, but also to the ability to address philosophies and ways of interacting within an educational community that values and practices science and technology through inquiry, being able to deliberate reflection aimed to focus on problem posing. By inquiring and examining their understanding of teaching, Preservice teachers question, think, discuss, and further increase awareness of their understandings, values, and dispositions to teach to solidify their role as teachers. Additionally, recent research has also highlighted the relevant role of emotions in configuring teacher identity. The emotional profile that teachers experience about their identity is complex and not unidirectional, meaning that Preservice teachers can face teaching challenges associated with negative emotions and yet have the ability to reverse these emotions, hence contributing significantly to the development of their teaching identity. Aims and research questions. This research aims to explore the complex interplay between teacher identity construction, inquiry orientation, and emotional experiences in physics and chemistry Preservice teachers during their initial teacher education. Specifically, we examine how these three factors interact and influence each other during the development of the professional teaching identity, addressing the following research questions. What are the Preservice teachers' perceptions about inquiry, emotions, and identity? What patterns emerge from integrating identity perception, inquiry orientation, and emotional experiences in Preservice teachers? Methodology. This research presents a case study developed with 8 physics and chemistry Preservice teachers on the secondary teaching master degree at the University of Málaga during the academic year 2021. They all held a bachelor's or master's degree in either science or engineering, a prerequisite to enrolling in the master in education, which is compulsory to become a secondary education teacher in Spain. All participants had different teaching and research experience levels, although not in a professional way. Data were collected in agreement with the Ethics Committee of the University of Málaga during the completion of the Masters, where Preservice teachers received a specific instruction about inquiry-based science education, teacher identity, and emotions through a training program outlined to promote the professional development associated with these aspects. We employed an integrated multidimensional analysis to examine the relationships between teacher identity, emotional experiences, and inquiry orientation. This approach allows for systematically comparing and integrating data from 3 distinct instruments, identifying patterns and relationships across these factors of teacher development. To deepen the perception of inquiry, we apply the validated PTIT questionnaire, which provides an idea of the Preservice teacher's disposition towards inquiry-based science education. To do so, we calculated the participants' scores for each of the 4 factors composing the questionnaire. Factor 1, inquiry-based science education teaching practice. Factor 2, students' applicability. Factors 3 and 4 related to personal and external difficulties. Regarding the emotional profile that emerged in the teaching role, we adapted the instrument described by Jimenez Liso and co-workers, including the stages of the design of inquiry activities, combining the multiple selection of achievement and epistemic emotions, such as satisfaction, shame, interest, or insecurity. Finally, to explore identity perception, we apply an adaptation of the validated PPI questionnaire created by Chua and co-workers, selecting 6 Likert-type questions, aimed to detangle what it means to be an inquiring teacher professional, showing the Preservice teachers' capability of being effective inquirers regarding their teaching practices and identity development. Findings. Regarding inquiry general results, Factor 2 emerged as a decisive dimension across participants, suggesting they recognize the motivational value of inquiry-based approaches for students and indicating a predominantly student-centered perspective. The contrast between internal difficulties and external difficulties provides mixed insights into perceived barriers, with scores being relatively similar in both dimensions. Considering teaching identity, most participants demonstrated a stronger connection to aspects linked to questions 3, 4, and 5 related to ways to improve teaching practice. However, participants show lower scores in establishing past-present connections, question 6, likely reflecting their limited teaching experience. The variation in question 1, having a question in mind, and question 2, thinking about classroom experiences to support my stance, also suggests different levels of engagement with evidence-based reflective practice. The participants' emotional experiences during inquiry activities reveal a predominance of positive emotions, with concentration emerging as the most frequently experienced one. Trust and satisfaction also appear consistently, though with varying patterns among different participants. Negative emotions, such as insecurity, dissatisfaction, or boredom, were less frequent. When analyzing the participants' orientation toward inquiry, some patterns across the group arose. The data revealed that Preservice teachers 6 and 8 demonstrated exceptionally balanced scores across all inquiry factors, indicating a solid overall orientation toward inquiry-based teaching practices. In contrast, Preservice teacher 2 show a disparity between factors, with particularly low scores in Factor 1, but high in Factor 2, suggesting a strong recognition of inquiry value for students despite challenges in implementation. Particularly interesting were the cases of Preservice teachers 4 and 8, who exhibited distinctly different identity profiles from their peers. Preservice teacher 4 demonstrated remarkably consistent high score across all identity dimensions, suggesting a well-developed and balanced teaching identity. In contrast, Preservice teacher 8's profile revealed more moderate scores, indicating a different trajectory in identity development. Preservice teachers 5 and 7 demonstrated particularly strong positive emotional profiles. Some participants, such as Preservice teacher 6, exhibited a more diverse emotional range, stressing the complex nature of emotional development during teacher preparation. These findings lead us to suggest three main development patterns. The first one would be confidence-led development, exemplified by Preservice teachers 4, 5, and 6, showing particularly high reflection scores, strong factors 1 and 2 scores, and predominantly positive emotions across phases, though notably Preservice teacher 6 also expressed insecurity. The second pattern would be a growth-oriented pattern, exhibited by Preservice teachers 2, 3, and 7, with a strong improvement-focused reflection, but more variation in questions 1, 6, and factor 1 scores, accompanied by generally positive emotional responses. A final pattern would be a challenge-aware development, represented by Preservice teachers 1 and 8. Conclusions. This research shows how Preservice teachers perceive the development of their teacher identity, their readiness to inquiry, and their emotional profile experienced during the master in education. Performed as a case study, the varied profiles observed in this study highlights the importance of personalized approaches to teacher education that can accommodate and support different development trajectories while maintaining high standards for professional growth. With the caution due to the reduced number of participants, the emergence of three distinct development patterns, confidence-led, growth-oriented, and challenge-aware, suggests that becoming a science teacher is not a uniform process, but rather a highly individualized journey where multiple pathways can lead to successful professional development. Despite the limitation of our small sample size, these insights provide valuable direction for future research and practice in science teacher education, particularly in understanding how to better support Preservice teachers in developing their teaching identity through inquiry-based approaches while attending to their emotional well-being. Integrating these three dimensions, identity, inquiry, and emotion, is fundamental in shaping effective science teachers, suggesting that teacher education programs should explicitly address and support all three aspects of their curriculum and practice. Finally, I would like to thank the agencies that fund this research and to all of you for your kind attention.